The Final Fantasy Precon commanders have been revealed, and I have to play these games now. Guys, welcome to the video. My name is Jack Talks MTG, and I make commander content for noobs like you. And today we're going to be discussing Magic's latest news, and that is the Final Fantasy commanders. IGN dropped this article. They were the first ones to get the little drop for us, and it is exciting, guys. Now, I'm going to say right now, I'm not a huge Final Fantasy fan right now, okay? I've not really played the games. However, this has inspired me to whip out the old 3DS. And the only Final Fantasy game I own, Final Fantasy 3, and finally take a delve into this game. It's been sitting there for a long time, and this was a perfect excuse for me to pick it up and start playing with it. So I'm super excited to get into playing that. And yeah, but enough about that. We're going to discuss these decks that have been announced. And you know, if you're a big Final Fantasy fan, I think you've got a lot of reason to be excited. And maybe you're like me and you weren't a Final Fantasy fan, but after seeing these, you may become one. So let's have a little look at the information that has been announced so far. So before we go into the actual cards themselves, I just want to discuss a little bit about what was in this article. So first things first, the number one thing to note is that each of these precons will be based on a separate game. So we've got one for 6, one for 7, one for 10, and one for 14. So the reasoning behind these is that it may seem a little bit random, especially from someone from the outside. If you don't know, Final Fantasy has loads of games. None of them are actually like related to each other unless they're like sequels to that game specifically. So like Final Fantasy 6 story is different to 7. They're different characters, so on, so on, so on. And the reason they've chosen these 4 games are due to basically gameplay. Like they sort of had an idea of what they wanted for each deck, and then they would sort of pick which game is paired for that, and also just based on kind of popularity and stuff like that, which is obvious, right? So that was probably the number one reason, but they didn't say that was the number one reason, but I reckon it was. That was one big thing. So don't get too like annoyed if you don't see the face commander is a character that you love. You want to pick the deck that is of the game that you love the most, right? So if you love, say 10, but you don't like Tidus, it's fine. You probably should still buy that because maybe there will be your favorite character that's actually in that deck. In fact, it's very likely that your favorite character will be in the retrospective game deck. Right, let's get to what everyone wants to see, and that is the cards. So starting off, we're going to be looking at Terra, Herald of Hope. This is from Final Fantasy VI. So from like a chronological order, this would be the first game that was made before the others. So Terra, Herald of Hope is from like the pixelated game. And you can clearly see here that she is not pixelated. Now in the article, it talks about how they got a lot of inspiration for art-wise from like concept art before it was made into the game sort of thing. So I think that's really, really interesting. And I will say the art in all of these cards look stunning, really nice. And that's someone again who is just from the outside, but this sort of thing has got me really excited to play the games. And this is why I love Universes Beyond. A lot of people give it a lot of hate, and I understand, but when it comes to things like this where it inspires you and pushes you to like delve into other IPs, I think that's really cool. And Final Fantasy has always been something that's piqued my interest, but it's been really, shall we say, quite overwhelming from the outside looking in. And yeah, I've just had a lot of, you know, other stuff grabbing at my attention. But now this is a perfect reason for me to take that dive. So enough of that tangent. So Terra, Herald of Hope. So this is a 3-color commander. She is in the Mardu colors, so red, white, and black. She, at the beginning of combat on your turn, mill 2 cards. Terra gains flying to the end of the turn. And the name of that ability is Trance. Now, apparently this is relevant to the game. Again, I can't tell you that relevance, but it's cool that they have clearly made an effort to make these cards flavorful for the fans. Whenever Terra deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2 mana, and when you do, return target creature card with power 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Now, they talked about this in an article where the Final Fantasy VI deck is going to be primarily based on the second half of the game. Now, I haven't played the game, as I've said, but what I do know or can tell is that in the second half of that game, you have to rebuild your party. So I'm assuming, you know, something really bad happens, maybe a lot of them die, and you have to try and like get them all back or whatever. I'm sure the Final Fantasy fans will correct me in the comments below, but that is, you know, what this whole deck is about. It's about rebuilding your party, getting your stuff back from the graveyard. So it's a reanimation deck, so that's really, really cool. Kind of reminds me of like the Alesha card from Foundations. So it's like combat reanimation. I think it's in the same colors as well as Alesha. So yeah, as a card, I think it's quite cool. It's cheap, it's free, you know, it's respectable. I want to just have a little look at this set symbol, which is a chocobo, which is a Final Fantasy bird mount like creature, quite iconic of the Final Fantasy series. So it's super cute. It's really, really, really nice. I like it. And then I also want to point out that they've got which game the character is from in the bottom left corner. And I think that is fantastic. I hope we see that on the rest of the set cards as well. Because then we can literally, you can probably even like just filter through and go, right, okay, I love this game, so I want to fill a deck filled with just cards from this game, and that's going to make it so much easier. So yeah, I really like that they've done that. Right, that's enough of Terra. Let's look at the next card. It's everybody's favorite boy, Cloud X Soldier. My man with a big ass sword. I believe it's called the Cloud Buster, but I could be wrong. So yes, there is Cloud. He is 2 mana, a red, green, and a white. So he's 5 mana, quite expensive. Haste when Cloud enters, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to it. So equipment-based card. Whenever a Cloud attacks, draw a card for each equipped attacking creature you control. Then if Cloud has power 7 or greater, create 2 treasure tokens. So this isn't your typical Voltron, like power up 1 single card, mostly your commander, and then just hit opponent with face. This is more about equipping equipment to all of your party or all of your creatures and then benefiting from that. So I like that it's not your typical Voltron equipment commander. So that's quite nice. Other than that, it's got power matters as well, which is why they said they've included green and it's not just Boros, not just red-white. So yeah, that is interesting. This one is going to be the one that flies off the shelves. I mean, I think they're all going to fly off the shelves, but this one is going to be the most one. It's in demand, as Final Fantasy VII is the most popular Final Fantasy. So if you want this deck, make sure you are ready there to pre-order it when it drops. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't know if you're going to get a look in or you're going to be paying an extreme markup. But yeah, the card itself, it's cool. I like it. It is quite expensive, so bear that in mind. It's got no protection on it as well, no ward to be spoken of or anything like that. But it is in green-white, so you're going to have plenty of protection spells to protect it if you need to. But yeah, that's all I've really got to say about Cloud. Right, next card. Tidus, Yuna's Guardian. This is another 3 mana, so nice and cheap. It's a green, white, and blue. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may move a counter from target creature you control onto a second target creature you control. It has cheer. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control with counters on them deal combat damage to a player, you may draw a card and proliferate. Do this only once each turn. Now, I don't believe cheer is a mechanic we've seen before. That's probably another Final Fantasy exclusive mechanic. And it's probably going to see a lot of play in this deck, because this deck is all about moving your counters around. So you're going to have counters on all of your creatures. Don't necessarily need to be 1/1 counters. They can be lots of different stuff. I mean, I would hope it's not just 1/1 counters, because it's going to make the deck way more interesting. If it was just to be 1/1 counters, I think it would just be really boring. Just that doesn't interest me really. But yeah, this guy is from Final Fantasy X. So if you're a Final Fantasy X fan, pick up this deck. Now, the reason behind the whole counters moving stuff around is actually referring to, I think they said, the leveling system, the sphere grid leveling system, I think it was called. But yeah, that's what it is. A lot of people were assuming, is it Blitzball? And it does refer to Blitz in the actual deck. And Blitzball, if you don't know, is a game inside the game that a lot of fans really, really love. And they've definitely referenced that in the deck as well. So that's cool if you like that. But yeah, this guy seems pretty cool. I mean, it's not doing anything crazy. Again, this is one of more like your facilitator commanders, more like kind of value, powering up your stuff, but he's not winning the game for you by himself. I didn't really speak about the art from this guy or Cloud, but you know, it's Cloud. He is looking awesome, and Tidus is looking pretty much the same. Very, very nice. He's got a big old sword as well. I will say the box art for Tidus looks different. Like, they've made him look more realistic, but in here he looks more animated. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know which one would have been more cool, but you know, the animated version does look really, really, really nice. So I guess it's, you know, it scratches that itch if you like the more anime look of it. And this next card is the opposite. So let's go and have a look at the next card, and that is Y'shtola Knights Blessed. This, I will say, is designed by the one and only Magali. She is one of the most talented Magic the Gathering artists. She is from France, and she is a delight. She is great. She's the one that my sister queued up for hours to get cards signed for her at MagicCon Amsterdam, and she was really, really lovely. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. She is absolutely, this is a home run. This is, in my opinion, this is probably the best looking one out of the four. So what is Y'shtola? She is a one colorless, one white, one blue, one black. She has vigilance at the beginning of each end step. If a player lost 4 or more life this turn, you draw a card. So nice value there. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, Y'shtola deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. So a little bit of drain as well. They said that the Final Fantasy XIV deck was the hardest one to come up with what they wanted as their face commander. The other 3 are kind of like the lead characters, whereas Final Fantasy XIV is an MMO. There is no lead character, so they had to go more and lean into kind of how they wanted the deck to play. They knew they wanted a non-creature-esque deck. They wanted more spell-slingy sort of style, and Y'shtola, especially in this part of her arc, I think they called it the Shadow Spear arc. Is it Shadow? That Shadow Spear is a magic card. I've just had to go check the article. It's the Shadowbringers arc. So that is where this character's sort of look and stuff is based on, and what she does and all that stuff. So she looks cool. I think this is probably mechanically the most interesting out of the 4. I think for me it's a little bit of a shame because I think it's the most mechanically interesting and also the most visually probably interesting. I love this art, as I said. The only thing is this is based on the MMO, and like that's kind of the most, shall we say, like barrier to entry is probably the highest because it requires such a big investment of time and stuff like that. So that's a bit of a shame because, you know, I know realistically if I'm going to start playing these Final Fantasy games after I've finished number 3 here. Let me know what you think of this one, by the way, because I've watched like videos and guides and stuff, the best ones to start, and Final Fantasy 3 doesn't actually come up there. So, but yeah, so I'm probably going to end up playing like 7 or 10 or, you know, both. But yeah, so 14, it's a bit of a shame that noobs like me will probably have less kind of, you know, familiarity with this one. But yeah, I think she's really, really cool nonetheless. And who knows, maybe this will inspire me to pick up the MMO. But I don't really have a lot of time these days, so I don't know. We'll see. Another thing I want to point out is that all of these have the color white in them. And that is done on purpose, because if you don't know, Final Fantasy is all about warriors of light, right? Even I know that, because at the start of Final Fantasy 3, they say that you're like a warrior of light and you're the chosen one and that. And I think that's a common theme in the games. So you are always a hero and you're always a warrior of light, I think. So correct me if I'm wrong on that. But that is why white is present in every single one of the decks. So if you like white, you got a lot of choice here. Now, we also have the box designs for all of these commander decks. We'll have a little look at these, and I think they are looking pretty nice. I love the art on the box, and we've got the little description. So for Terra, we've got Revival Trance, fill your graveyard, revive your fallen heroes. Next one, we got Clouds, equip weapons, and raise your stats past 7 power. for the Final Fantasy 7. I see what you did there. Next one, we've got Tidus one, Counter Blitz, referring to Blitzball. Add counters and pass them around. Okay, nice. And then we've got Y'shtola's Scions and Spellcraft. Be a master caster, card advantage, and control. And not only do we have these 4 precons, but we also have the collector versions. That's right, team. These big old price collector ones that are coming back. So what the ones that we saw, I think last one was the Warhammer decks. We're going to be seeing these for Final Fantasy. And now is the time to talk about the price of these decks. So the regular ones are going to be priced at $70. So in the UK, I'm just pulling this out of my head, but I think it's going to be around probably £60. So yeah, there's a big price increase on these universes beyond precons. It might actually be more like £50. Let's check. Okay, so it's around £56, I believe, $70. So yeah, quite expensive. A little bit of a price increase there from your average. Normally I think is around £40 for a precon these days. But yeah, and these collector's editions are going to be going for $150. I can't be asked to figure out the UK price of that, but yeah, you're looking at probably around £130 ish. But yeah, a lot of money for a precon. These ones are probably going to be bought and put on shelves and left sealed a lot as well, especially if you've got big Final Fantasy fans out there. This is going to be the sort of thing where, like, once these are gone, the demand is probably always going to be there with these Final Fantasy fans. It's such a huge IP. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of people probably selling these very marked up prices, guys. So if you want these, or you're like me and you've got an interest in them, then start playing the games now, because if you are not there on release date, whoo! And Mark Rosewater even said himself that he thinks this is going to be the most successful Magic set of 2025. This is going to sell the most, in his opinion. Bear in mind, that is over Spider-Man. So that alone says a lot, guys. So yeah, we've got the collector's edition. Here we go. We've got Terra's one, Cloud's one, Tidus, and then Y'shtola. So you can see they've got like the classic like white background as well. That's very Final Fantasy-esque as well. That's what I think when I think of like the brand of Final Fantasy. So yeah, they look very nice. These are going to be in these Surge foils. So if you've seen like the Warhammer cards in their collector ones, they came in these little Surge foils. And I mean, I own one of them, I think I bought one for my Igra deck and for one of the Tyrannid ones. And I will say it does look nice. It does look nice. So I think they curl quite badly as well, though. So just bear that in mind. But yeah, if you like shiny cards and you love Final Fantasy, then you're probably looking at picking up one of these collector's editions. But start saving your pennies now, team, because on top of this, we're getting a full set. We're getting, imagine those collector boosters, what's going to be inside there, the serialized cards that are going to be in there, there's crazy treatments, everything. Yeah, there's a lot to be looking forward to, guys. And this is all before we've any seen any Tarkir Dragonstorm stuff. It's wild that they're just building this hype so early. But, even though I'm really looking forward to Tarkir Dragonstorm, it's so cool that they've released this a little bit early. Because even now, people like me can start preparing. And say you're like, I like the look of Final Fantasy X, I can now go away and start playing 10 in preparation for when this deck drops. And I think that is really cool and actually a little bit intentional. Now, if you're new to Magic the Gathering and you are looking to pick up a precon and you can't wait for a Final Fantasy precon, these have got you excited, but you want to start playing and learning how to play now, then check out my video series, Commander for Noobs. Specifically, if you want to buy a precon, your first Precon Matters video, and that is going to help make sure that you choose the right precon for you. Other than that, guys, let me know what you think of these cards in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next one. Cheers.